Hello and welcome to the Faces of Africa Pocket Edition, where we dissect and discuss the topics covered in our weekly documentary show, which takes you through the continent's history, cultures, and major issues through exploring great personalities. This week on Faces of Africa podcast, the documentary is on the San people from Botswana. My name is Fathiya Mohammed Noor. I have here
Jeff Muthee.
Hi Jeff, how are you?
I'm good, Fathiya. How are you?
Good to see you. I think last time we also did together.
Yes, we did together. Another week, another podcast.
Yes, for sure. And an interesting episode this week because it's all about culture, but culture with a very interesting angle to it. So the name of the documentary is Fences Around Us, and it's featuring the San people from Botswana.
Correct.
In the country here, we have got about 15 different kinds of San communities. One thing which differs us is the geographical landscapes. Others with somewhere in the sand, somewhere on the rocks, and the languages also differs. So if somebody from here, when he speaks, people from the Central Caribbean, they cannot hear, they don't understand him. And the hunting skills, what I've learned is that they are just the same, so it's not much different.
According to my understanding, the San people are also known as Bushmen.
Yes.
And they are one of the oldest traditions from Southern Africa.
Correct.
And they are basically hunters and gatherers.
Imagine.
And that's something they still practice up until today. What do you think?
Yeah, even today they still practice that. Though the culture is fast being eroded very fast by modernization, and then also the young people don't want to get into the culture. They think it's old. They want the modern lifestyle. Factors like being kicked out of their ancestral land is also affecting their culture, because these are people who live in sync with nature. 100%. To them, it's all about the land, it's all about the animals, it's all about, as you said, hunting and gathering of their food.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly, just the way you've described it. But
Yes.
in this particular documentary, they talk about the San people who've primarily been living in the Central Kalahari Game Reserve, and they've been doing the hunter-gathering lifestyle for a very long time.
Yes.
But, even in the documentary, they state that, from 1970s onwards, the government has been forcefully trying to relocate them.
Correct.
And, especially their land. And
Yes.
this is one of the things that is really affecting them. In your opinion, then, do you think slowly cultures or traditions are disappearing?
As you said, the forced removals plus bans on hunting are erasing the San heritage. About only 5% still speak the native language, right?
Oh, that's
and also now factors like alcoholism, poverty accelerate the crisis. A lot of their culture is being washed away by modernity. The young people don't want to to live the way their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents used to live. They want to move to the towns. Unfortunately, they're educated, but there are no jobs, so they fall into the trap of alcoholism. So they lose their culture very fast.
And it's interesting when you watch this particular documentary, the San elders especially, they're really trying to preserve their traditions. Even by the way they've dressed, let's put it that way.
Yes.
And some of them are very sad that their traditions are just slowly eroding.
Correct.
And the issue is not only here about just the loss of land and human rights, hunting rights rather, that is affecting them.
Yes.
But it's also the fact that younger generations, some of them are actually just not interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they might have a point, right? What do you think?
I think the young people should get, because what happens is, if let's say your mother tongue, and it's only the old people who can be able to speak your mother tongue, you'll get to a point where if that old person dies, then the language dies with them.
Right.
You get. So the young people should step in proactively and start learning the language, start learning the tradition, start learning the culture and how their people used to live, so that there's continuity of the traditions of the people, the language, their way of life, the hunting, the gatherers. Let me tell you, the San people are very good animal trackers, very good animal trackers. They can even tell the age, sometimes the gender of the animal by just looking at the paw prints.
Wow, that
yes. So you get,
interesting.
if now the old generation have no one to pass the this knowledge too, then it dies with them, unfortunately.
I totally agree with you. And even in the documentary, we see young people who are, saying, they're trying to tell us about the Swana culture and all, but they also want to be musicians. I think one of them was trying to, like the three of the boys are in the documentary, they're talking about their album and they're trying to, sing, and they don't have the finances. But
exactly.
These are not things that the old people do understand.
Yeah, of course. So the old people know some type of music, right? The young people are singing some very strange music according to the old people. You can even tell by the way they're dancing, the way they're dressing, the way they have their hairstyle. These are people who are at loggerheads with the old people, right? Yeah. So you'll tell that's why the old people are really sad that the young people are not embracing their culture, and slowly it's dying.
Yeah, and I just want to tie that exactly what you're talking about, the music, to how the San people are actually trying to maintain their traditions, especially the older people. The young people, they want to get into, music, modern music, but they have their own, the San people, especially the elders, they have their own traditional dances.
Correct.
Their own ways of doing things.
Correct.
And even their bedding and even the way they've dressed is completely different.
Yes.
Another way that I think they've been preserving their cultures is art.
Yes.
And you see, it's interesting how you see most of the people who are actually doing the art are older people.
Yeah.
And for them, it's so that people don't forget where they came from.
You see.
And for their grandchildren to actually see where their grandparents used to live through a form of art, which is interesting, right?
Yes, it is. And for me, that shows you just how desperate the situation is. That instead of your grandmother or your grandfather just resting and playing with their grandkids and all, it's their sunset years. They just need to chill, right? So they're here rushing against time to start doing art and preserving that knowledge, because there's nobody to hand it over to.
100%.
Their kids are not interested. Their grandkids are not interested. You get. So, but I like the way they've taken it upon themselves to just persevere and pass that ancient knowledge and quote unquote just write it down, paint it down, and pass it over to the next generation.
And even it's a form of livelihood for them.
Correct.
Just the piece of art they do, they're selling it, and even if they get the lady there gets only $37 in in some few days, and so that tells you they're also trying to ensure that it's an economic value also for them as much as they're older.
Correct. Yeah. You're right, because now they can't be able to revert to their old ways, that they can't be able to hunt, they can't be able to go out and gather, because the lands have been allocated to other people and they have been moved from their ancestral lands.
And I think also it's interesting to see in the documentary, they still show the importance of community. When they go to the church and then they're being talked to and what they need to do.
Correct.
So you can still see, as much as there's that modernity that's coming in right now, community is still very strong even for the San people.
It is.
What role do you think young people are playing really in preserving culture, as much as we're talking about them being, modern?
Yeah, young people have innovative ways of preserving their culture. You'll see some youth from the San community using TikTok to share traditions. Some of them want to sue for land rights, Others will lead eco tours showing their ancestral wisdom. To them, they just want to reclaim what's theirs. That's the beauty with this generation. They're very woke and they're very ready to face the bull and take it by the horns. And so it's not all doom and gloom. It's looking good.
Exactly, just what you've said, because they're also embracing digital tools
Correct.
You're talking about and documenting the journey of the San people and where they live and all that, so which I think is very interesting.
Correct.
Just to still talk about this whole situation about cultures and tradition and preserving them in Kenya.
Yes.
One of the most known indigenous cultures is the Maasai.
Yes.
And when you think about tourism in Kenya, or even someone
Maasai.
coming down from a plane, it's the Maasai people who are jumping and dancing.
Yes.
What do you think Kenya is actually doing to preserve it more?
I think what Kenya is doing more is in terms of land rights and protected communities, right? You'll find out that governments recognize Maasai communal land ownership, e.g. the Masai Mara, So they're trying to ring fence that so that the community benefits that. You'll also get organizations like UNESCO, right? UNESCO status on the Masai Mara and Loita forests. These are sacred sites for the Maasai. And these sites get global protection. You see. So number 2, there's also the education and language revival. You'll find out that there's some pilot projects in like Narok and Kajiado counties where kids are taught in Ma plus Swahili and English, right? And then you'll find they're incorporating elders as teachers. These are the who lead the cultural school, teaching traditions, herbal medicine and livestock wisdom. Okay. There are other initiatives like the tourism, ethical tourism, where some Maasais partner with ecologists, right, to showcase their jumping, which is called adumu, the beadwork, the guided nature tours, without stereotyping. There is also the legal route that some Maasais are taking, right? Like in 2023, there was the Maasais managed to block eviction in Tanzania. Okay, they got we can say that's a legal victory, right? And then there's something like the Maasai NFT projects. Youth sell digital art, beadwork on blockchain to fund cultural projects.
Right.
Yes. So you can see that they're trying. The Gen Z Maasai are also trying to use social media, land mapping apps to defend their heritage.
Definitely, and as you can see how Kenya is actually putting in the effort, even when we talk about tourism, because we've talked about it also earlier, like Tembea Kenya or a lot of the times the face of tourism itself is the Maasai people.
Correct.
So that's one of the ways. And I think also another thing that is very interesting that you've also mentioned, the land rights.
Yes.
Part of the constitution.
Yes.
So which means governments also need to come in hand and try to actually make sure that, every community is catered for.
Fantastic. I completely agree with you, because even to link it from the Kenyan situation to the documentary that will air on Sunday, you'll get somebody says, yes, they might push us to a certain land, but somebody will come in with a lot of money, and people are willing to sell. Exactly. So even where they're taken, people will come with money and sell off the land. Exactly. And so they move even further. You get. And these people are just there for their own commercial gain. They don't think about the community at all.
Totally. And that's where the government needs to come in and ensure that these things are taken care of. And also, just as we wrap up finally, another thing in Kenya that we do have is the Utamaduni Day, which means, cultural day, right?
Yes.
And you see such a day, it's honoring.
Yes.
A lot of these cultures and traditions.
Yes.
Also, somewhere in Nairobi, Bomas.
Yes.
There's always like a play of different cultures and people are singing and dancing. And I think that's one of the ways the tradition is actually being maintained in Kenya, and maybe other countries in Africa can adapt to it.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that exposes all of us to different cultures. So you get to understand the other culture. So you don't stereotype, you get to understand them better. You get where they're coming from, why they do certain things in a certain way. And diversity is cool.
100%. I totally agree with you. Thank you so much, Jeff, for your time.
No, thank you for having me, Fathiya.
Remember, this documentary is airing on CGTN on Sunday at 12:30 East African time. This podcast is also uploaded on our CGTN Africa YouTube channel and Faces of Africa YouTube channel. See you next time.